You have to understand this. Boxing's like this game of life. I got beaten by Buster, right?
It's the end of influencer boxing. Does Jake continue? You know, he's got I guess, looks like a seemingly bad injury. Both sides of his jaw broken.
Why, when he fought Anthony Joshua, I scoffed at it. I talked a little bit of because of the lunacy. And I said, someone's going to end up dead. Someone can die. 10 to 13 boxers die per year.
Mike Tyson snaps loudly after Jake Paul's brutal knockout loss to Anthony Joshua, basically telling him to walk away from boxing. Tyson claims Jake is gambling with his body by chasing elite opponents. He reminds everyone the sport shows zero absolute mercy and insists it's only a countdown until Jake gets seriously hurt if he refuses to retire and keeps hunting these dangerous matchups. Jake Paul has allegedly been left with a brutal jaw injury following his knockout defeat, as viral clips online show him barely able to open his mouth normally. In footage he posted, every word looks painful, underlining just how serious the damage really is. Fans and analysts say this injury exposes the risks he accepted by stepping up against an elite heavyweight like Anthony Joshua, echoing warnings from voices like Mike Tyson that pushing forward could cause even worse harm.
But when you take care...
Pauli Malignaggi dissects Jake Paul's predicament following his serious jaw injury, stressing the lengthy recovery ahead. A jaw broken on both sides is drastically worse than normal daily use. It needs complete healing to handle impact, sparring, and real boxing. Pauli says this may bench Jake for a year, sparking questions over whether he returns as a boxer or shifts attention to his promotional company instead. He applauds Jake's MVP promotional company, pointing out it treats fighters properly and pays them fairly, unlike countless promoters. Pauli adds that Jake has signed gifted fighters and is managing the promotion responsibly, which may become his main focus while healing from the injury now.
You have this issue now where he's got to recover, and honestly, coming from broken two sides of broken jaw is even worse, because you got to test it out. It's, you're not just chewing food or talking. Your jaw has to heal enough to take impact, to spar, to be able to actually box, and not just everyday life's usage of your jaw. Like I said, to just chew and talk. But so, I don't know. That's why I was thinking, like, is this going to be the end of Jake, or because even if he comes back as a boxer, it'll probably could take a year, to be honest. Does he focus on his promotional company? I was thinking, the promotional company is probably one thing that I could always ride with. I never had criticism for it. Jake's promotional company, MVP. I think he's doing a lot of good things with his fighters, taking care of them, which is personally what I like. If fighters earn their money, and they should be compensated for it the right way, and a lot of promoters don't do that. But Jake has signed a lot of good fighters and compensates them very well, giving them opportunities and so on. So especially the women, but not just the women. A buddy of mine, Lucas Body's also signed with MVP. He's done well over there. So he's. I do like the promotional company. Will this maybe give Jake a chance to sort of double down on the promotional company, being that he's not going to be fighting, and put even more effort into the promotional company, and I don't know, just make this MVP platform an even bigger deal. I don't know.
Michael Bisping sharply spells out the brutal dangers of combat sports, reminding everyone that boxing is not a game. He notes that between 10 to 13 professional boxers die every year from injuries suffered inside the ring, spotlighting the real-life risks involved. Bisping blasts Jake Paul for pushing far beyond his natural weight class strictly for money, creating flashy mismatches that attract attention, but also leave him facing extreme danger. He stresses boxing must be treated professionally, with proper training, preparation, and respect for the sport, warning that ignoring these rules can bring devastating consequences.
It's not a game. Fighting is not something you pick up and mess around with, right? If you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, if you're a mixed martial artist, right, you have to take this seriously and you have to respect the game. That's why when he fought Anthony Joshua, I scoffed at it. I talked a little bit of because of the lunacy. And I said, someone's going to end up dead. Someone can die. 10 to 13 boxers die per year. It is not a game. Now, of course, the man wants to make money and he wants to box people and he wants to entertain his fans and thrill audiences. And that's great. And God bless him. Fair play to him. The man is very, very successful. I've never talked about that. I've only talked about a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, or fighting retired, semi-retired UFC legends and then talking about them, right? All I've ever said is box someone your own age and size. And then this thing with Anthony Joshua, I was like, this is crazy. Now let's talk about the actual fight for a second. It happened in the 6th round, and it happened in a 22-foot ring. A typical ring is 20 foot. This one was 22 foot because he wanted a bigger room to operate, a bigger space, a bigger ring, somewhere to run away and be on his bike and stay away from Anthony Joshua. Now, I don't blame the guy. I'd have done the same thing, right? Because Anthony Joshua is gigantic and has the kind of power that could potentially do that to you, right? Maybe it's real, maybe it's AI, right? Either way, his face is going to be swollen today. That's a fact, right? The bigger ring gives you more space. Jake Paul did about 5 miles of road work, shot about 25 double leg takedowns because he didn't want to stand there and go toe to toe with him like Francis Ngannou did, because he knows what would have happened, okay? And ultimately, it ended up happening anyway in the 6th round. And yeah, okay, he's going to have the street cred of standing there and say, I went 6 rounds.
Similarly, Johnny Nelson explains that although Jake Paul has shown himself to be an elite promoter, constantly pulling huge attention toward his fights, that spotlight came with a personal price. Nelson applauds Jake's talent for captivating audiences and dominating headlines. But he also stresses that risking your life purely for entertainment deserves no praise. Nelson casts Jake's recent loss to Anthony Joshua as a harsh reality check, warning young fighters and influencers that hype and promotion cannot erase the dangers of meeting professional-level opponents unprepared. Both analysts agree that though Jake thrives at marketing, the physical risks he accepted were real and must never be ignored.
Anthony Joshua couldn't have done any more. When you get in the ring with somebody that is constantly trying to just survive and run, you can't do anything about it. Our sport is built up of journeymen, like what Jake Paul did. He's trying to survive, he's not trying to engage. And so therefore, it's your job to cut him down and catch up to him. I think Anthony Joshua, it was basically open to a lot of criticism because this guy didn't come to engage. If he came to engage, then it would have been a completely different story. And I understand the frustration of the general public when they're saying they should knock him out in 1 to 2 rounds. I get that, because Jake Paul has been brilliant at annoying and getting under the skin of everybody, which you really, in our sport, if you can evoke emotion from the fans, you're doing a great job. So what Jake Paul did was got in the ring. I think he realised the task in hand when he stood there in that 22-foot ring. He sees an Adonis of a fighter, former world champion, Anthony Joshua in another corner, and that's when reality hit fiction. Everything he had in his head, everything he thought that he could possibly do, had disappeared, slipped out the ring with the cornerman, slipped out the ring, and he thought, wow, this is for real. And even a little jab that just gently missed him, you could see him thinking, what is this about? So it was a case of survival. And to me, I didn't want Anthony Joshua to knock him out, if I'm honest with you. I thought, you've got to make this kid have a reality check. And that's what he actually did, because Jake Paul himself said, I was shattered. You know, this guy, everything I thought I could do, I couldn't do. Boxing looks so easy on the TV. Boxing looks so, matter of fact, no big deal, until you get punched. And then reality kicks in. And Jake Paul, he has done a brilliant job of promoting himself, promoting this fight, promoting the evoking human emotion. And I think he'll be a great promoter down the line, because, on the undercard, you had Caroline DeBarbox on the undercard. You had all these amazing fights on the undercard.
Analysts have warned that Jake Paul's shattered jaw is a serious and potentially career-altering injury. The damage, reportedly involving fractures on both sides of his jaw, demands extensive healing before he can safely spar, absorb punches, or compete again. Experts emphasize these injuries are not simply about basic actions like speaking or eating. They directly affect the ability to withstand impact inside the ring. Recovery may take many months, and returning too soon could risk permanent damage. Analysts also caution that continuing high-risk fights against elite opponents could cause severe long-term consequences for Jake's health and boxing career.
Most people can tell me is, but Jake Paul made a lot of money. Who cares? Money is a tool. Money is good. If you can get it, get it. Hustle. But here's the thing. If someone offered you $100 million, but then if you took the $100 million, you have to pass away, they're going to take your life in 2 weeks. I mean, would you take that? So you get a lot of money, and then you only have 2 weeks with the money. Like that, to me, that's stupid. So money is cool, but there's billionaires and millionaires that have lost their life. I'm sure they had terminal illnesses or whatnot. I'm sure they would give up a lot of their wealth or large portions of their wealth for their health. That's why people say health is wealth. So I'm not impressed by money. And it's so funny that you have these MAGA influencers that just lost back-to-back, Jake Paul and Andrew Tate, and their fan bases who pitch this far right and pitch this like red pill philosophies, alpha male philosophies, and like having affirmations and daily tenets and goal setting and being a real man and the difference between man and woman, all these things that these bases have been.
Dan Raphael argues Jake Paul's opening game plan in the bout was wildly reckless, likening it to charging straight into a jet engine blade. He explains there's a line between smart defensive movement and outright running away from the ring, which Jake basically did through the opening 4 rounds. While that kept him standing briefly, it looked like a cartoonish attempt to survive. Raphael adds the knockout was inevitable and impressive, but it dragged on longer than it should have.
Shocked me, but it kind of disappointed me. Whereas I didn't expect Jake Paul to go in there and just recklessly go forward and try to mix it up with Anthony Joshua. That would be like immediate suicide. That would be like running into a jet plane propeller on purpose. But there's a fine line between being defensive minded and using your ability to move and your speed and things like that, than like literally fleeing and just running around the ring like you're in a cartoon. And that's what he basically resorted to for the first 4 rounds. I mean, I guess it was effective because he stayed upright, other than when he was flopping down on the canvas. But no, nothing really surprised me. Jake got the knockout that everybody expected, and it was a pretty impressive knockout when he finally got it. It just took him longer than it probably should have to get there.
Why do you think it took him so long? It seemed at times that he wasn't throwing his right hand as much. Was it just the fact, like you said, Jake was on the back foot, it was difficult to pin him down, or do you think Joshua should have and could have finished this way earlier?
I mean, he probably could have finished it a little bit earlier. I mean, I'm willing to cut him a little bit of slack because we look at it from the standpoint of, okay, he's a physically much more imposing figure, a much better fighter, a much heavier puncher, a much more experienced fighter. This is an Olympic gold medal winner. This is a 2-time unified heavyweight champion going up against what is basically still a novice professional in Jake Paul, who, by the way, is fighting generally in the 200-pound weight class, and Anthony Joshua was a chiseled 250 in most of his fights or thereabouts. So from that standpoint, he had all the physical advantages as well as all the experience and skills advantages. So why couldn't he do it earlier? Because it's hard to catch up with a guy when he's just going to run around and never try to even take a...
Liam Smith offers a brutally honest take on Jake Paul's knockout loss to Anthony Joshua, calling the fight a letdown from a boxing perspective. He says Jake's showing inside the ring was nowhere near professional. His main goal was survival instead of engagement, exposing a lack of real technique and strategy. Smith contrasts this with Jake's undeniable business brilliance, pointing to his ability to lure massive names like Mike Tyson and Anthony Joshua into the ring, lock down Netflix deals, and shine a spotlight on women's boxing. From a promotional angle, Jake stands alone, transforming what could have been a basic spectacle into a multi-million-dollar event. Still, Smith notes that despite the money, the fight delivered neither excitement nor credibility for serious boxing fans. Jake's approach the ring proves that although he shines as an influencer and promoter, his ability as a professional boxer stays restricted, leaning more towards survival instincts than competitive performance.
You know, on the flip side to it, everyone's laughing at Jake Paul when Jake Paul's laughing at everybody else. You know, everyone's making fun of him. He's laughing at us, not we're laughing at him. You know, he's just laughed himself to the bank. Even before that fight, you know, he's an unbelievable businessman, which is exactly what he is. To do what he's done, drag Mike Tyson into the ring, drag Anthony Joshua into the ring, get Netflix to do what he's done with women's boxing. Laugh at him all you want, mate. He's absolutely, you know, like I say, I'm going to use the word the businessman. He's unbelievable at what he's doing. As a fighter, as a boxer, as a professional boxer, he's poor. And I mean this with the greatest respect. Like, you know, he's come off the couch watching YouTube, doing YouTube and influencing people to get Anthony Joshua in the ring.
Should Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua ever be in the ring together? No. Should they fuck? But the business side to it, they fucking walked away with millions. The fight was poor. Jake was just in there to survive. Yeah, there's just loads. We can keep going on and on about it. Was it a success? Probably. The boat walked away with millions. But for Jake to get Joshua in the ring there, you can say all you want, but I think personally, if that fight fell on Tyson Fury's lap first, he would have took it. You know, which heavyweight's going to say, yeah, it is? Just let's say, an example, 50 million to fight Jake Paul. You know, they're going to say no. I don't think one heavyweight in world boxing would have said no, barring Alexander Usyk.
No, definitely as well. Final one on this as well. Do you side with the fact that kind of the first meaningful shot that Joshua threw, the fight was over?
Jake Paul is reportedly dealing with what may be a career-ending injury after his bout, with analysts labeling his showing more stunt than sport. Observers claim he stepped into the ring versus Anthony Joshua not as a true boxer, but as a stuntman, imitating boxing without full commitment. In the opening rounds, Jake constantly ran, dropped to his knees, and attempted to grab Joshua just to survive, allegedly doing this 10 or 11 times across 6 rounds. Even though he lasted all 6 rounds, critics argue his tactics were reckless and unprofessional, placing his health in real danger. Those repeated clinches and evasions exposed a lack of boxing fundamentals and strategy. Analysts warn that continuing this approach against elite fighters could result in catastrophic injuries. While some applaud his toughness, experts insist Jake's style reveals the risks of blending entertainment with professional-level combat, stressing the urgent need for respect and caution within the sport.
No more than I would have given him respect before for the other things that he's done, for he would have for me for being just a normal human being. Because as I said in other videos about the fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, I don't think that Jake Paul came in there as a boxer. I think Jake Paul came in there as a stuntman, and he was impersonating a boxer. He ran around the ring away from Anthony Joshua. Anytime Anthony Joshua tried in the beginning rounds, started engaging a little bit, Jake Paul ran up to him, jumped down on his knees, grabbed down on his leg. Might have been, I don't know, 10 or 11 times in the course of the 6 rounds that he went.
Angelo and Josh dissect the Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight, questioning whether this signals the end of Jake Paul's boxing era. They point out that last year he fought Mike Tyson, but this year's bout unfolded very differently. Jake suffered a jaw broken in 2 places and is now stuck on a liquid diet, even though he still pocketed $92 million. Angelo and Josh debate whether such a crushing loss ruins his future prospects or if hype will survive even against inexperienced opponents. They praise Joshua's flawless execution, noting he took 0 unnecessary risks and never left himself exposed inside the ring. Ultimately, the discussion moves away from spectacle and straight toward consequence. The broken jaw, the warnings from legends, and the unified concern from analysts all highlight the same truth. Boxing is not a game, and elite-level mismatches bring real lasting damage. While Jake Paul has proven himself an exceptional promoter and a major force in modern fight marketing, this loss to Anthony Joshua delivered a brutal reminder that success outside the ring offers no protection inside it. Whether this ends Jake's boxing ambitions or simply forces an injury pause, the message from boxing is unmistakable. Continuing this road carries risks that money, attention, and confidence simply cannot erase.
Fight this year, we had the Anthony Joshua fight, but things went very, very differently for Jake Paul. His jaw is broken in 2 different places. He is on an all-liquid diet, and things didn't go quite as well for him as he thought they would, but he did make $92 million. The question becomes, is this the end of the Jake Paul era? Did watching him get beat that badly ruin future fights? Or is this exactly what was supposed to happen and there will still be interest if Jake Paul fights a random 40?
That's all for today's video. Stay locked. Until next.